but as well as the Graves. So Trundle is still the big jungler left open. RNG can go for something like an Ezreal as well. We've seen that pop into the meta ever since MSC.
Betty loves Misfortune so much.
Betty was a huge Misfortune player in early split, but Trundle does very well punishing these immobile AD carries. Bell looks very good on it, but Bell also is known as a lot more of the early game aggressive jungler, the Lee Sin, the Elise, the Rek'Sai.
Really loved the Lee Sin earlier in the split. That's where he found most of his success. Ming, however, returning to what he found success on. Didn't have the largest champion pool in 2020 spring. Nautilus was always his go-to.
He's the type of player that does usually play a handful of the meta picks, Nautilus, Leona, Thresh, and does always have that pocket pick Morgana to fall back on. But now you're going to allow Hacker to be the one to pick up the Trundle. You now have a tank in the bot lane with the Nautilus, so Trundle will do quite well. And now you give OMG the option to pick into you. They can just pick something like the Thresh, which provides so much safety for the Aphelios.
Support for Cold. Remember, Cold also has a Blitzcrank up his sleeve, but maybe a bit too early for that one.
Cold is also a lot more of a protective support type player. I expect something like the Braum or the Tahm Kench out of him. Tahm Kench was actually his most played last split, which in the LPL was pretty uncommon.
Zoe going to come through here for Icon. Another favorite of his, but I mean, Icon's just another mid laner. Like everyone else in the LPL has a large champion pool.
He's a large champion pool, but I'd say a smaller effective champion pool to where last split we saw he do really well on the Zoe and the LeBlanc. Once he got past that, it was kind of like, okay, well, is he going to show up or isn't he? But his Zoe was definitely the most feared champion last split.
Kind of funny because I remember Icon at times had his LeBlanc as well to play through. He always has different motions in different splits. As we move forward, note that the Jarvan's been picked up here as a final rotation. Another early game jungler to fit right in the wheelhouse of Xiaolong Bao.
So RNG are kind of signaling that they're not going to change things up from their style before. They're going to live or die by snowballing the game. Like you said, they have a mid-game AD carry, an early-game jungler. On the side of OMG, it's all about scaling, all about they're setting up for a really strong teamfight composition if they can get Alias on a strong frontline champion.
So RNG not going to give away that Thresh stun to ban away some of the supports yet to be picked up here by OMG. Also note that the Galio taken away from the likes of Xiaohu. There's an interesting move here as well.
And we got to remember, when it comes to supports, it does seem like that set is always being left open. For Cold, we do still have both the Braum as well as the Tahm Kench. Of course, Braum will also do very well into the Misfortune itself. Pairs very well with Aphelios since he's very easily able to proc that passive. Would set up for a very good kind of a kite back and re-engage sort of comp.
Okay. 5 seconds for that ban to decipher, right? Okay, Azir gone. Xiaohu.
I looked at Xiaohu's solo queue recently. He's mostly been playing the Syndra, the LeBlanc, and the Zoe.
Still playing
the LeBlanc is still open, but this would be pretty weird if he went for it. He also still plays the Rumble. He also spams a lot of Kiana, which is pretty strange these days.
Yeah, kind of fallen out of priority, but the Twist of Fate is not. This is part of the meta magic we were talking about yesterday here and the other two lads. And the Twisted Fate coming through for Xiaohu. Now that's fun.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Twisted Fate. You have a lot of routes you can go in terms of build. With kind of how the draft has panned out, I would expect him to just go for the traditional AP build, have some wave clear up against that Zoe. You already have so much AD built into your composition, but you're going to offer so much pressure to your side lanes. And we've already said that that's what Xiaohu lives for. Xiaohu just likes to leave mid lane and go snowball for his sides.
Go towards the bottom lane. Sounds pretty good here with the Misfortune pick up with Nautilus, while OMG... Is the Renekton going to facilitate how we talked about scaling?
It's what Alias likes to play. Alias is a big fan of aggressive picks. It was his most played last split, and when he was in LDL, he had Kennen and Jace among his most played, so this is a guy who wants to be a carry and a damage threat for his team, and it fits the OMG system where, again, Hacker loved to go towards top early on in the game.
Does mean you have the pick now for New to go towards that Renekton. Of course, they're paying their respects to Uzi here with the Vayne Hover. The legend of the league needs to be respected. They're doing this all spring as well. It's nice to see. As Wukong going to get locked in here for New as his debut game.
Yeah, makes sense as well. He, as well as solo queue, has just been playing a ton of Wukong, so we've already set up for a very strong team fight coming out from RNG. Doesn't even matter about the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. You have so much Engage and Wombo in the rest of your team. We know what it's all about, getting these side lanes going early and then bringing it all together later in the game. For OMG, you have this kind of early pressure point in the Renekton, but it's all about these mid-late game teamfights with Braum, Trundle, Renekton as these big meat shields, and we don't need to talk about what Aphelios can do on the Rift.
No, we do not. Definitely don't. Not when I'm casting at the very least. But we hyped up that bottom lane. I mean, it's Misfortune, Aphelios. We know that the bottom lane isn't really interactive until we see a bit of that aggression. But I expect to see that. SMLZ and Betty have been laners who can test themselves, particularly SMLZ in that laning phase, where Betty, you talked a lot about the team fighting element. So can SMLZ take that advantage as we look to head towards this game number 1?
An interesting thing is we've really gotten away from the Braum in the meta because we especially see on red side where teams really like to, you typically either counterpick mid or support, we said earlier in the broadcast, so you don't want to blind a Braum and then end up playing against something like a Yuumi. So you can really only see it against things like the Leona and the Nautilus, but teams still preferring to go for some sort of playmaking engage themselves.
Even when we saw a lot of Ornn in the meta as well, we didn't see the Braum as like, this is worth picking to respond into this top lane guard.
Well, we did early on, right? In the very beginning of the split, like the first 1, 2, 3 weeks, we saw a lot of Braum into the Misfortune Ornn comps, but then later down the line, it was like, hey, let's get away from this, especially when Set started coming into the meta where teams really wanted to go for more of those aggressive options.
True. But you're ready to enter into the Rift here for RNG and OMG. Both teams were on the cusp. RNG made playoffs, OMG didn't. A strong start to the split, of course, here in day number 2 is what's needed as we welcome you back on to SR. This is going to be interesting because Xiaohu with his first TF here.
For anyone who doesn't know, Twisted Fate has just gotten kind of buffed constantly over the patches. His base stats, ultimate mana cost, blue and red card, the AP ratios got buffed. Sure. Even going far enough back, his stack deck, his E got buffed. So just become a very good champion. We do see him going with the Unsealed Spellbook, which is typically the AP route. If you're going to go for that hybrid build, it is more about the Omni Stone.
And so far in the LPL, all we've seen has been the Unsealed Spellbook into the AP route, right? We haven't seen any of those hybrid builds just yet.
The Omni Stone build is a lot more about finding early trades in lane, and you lack a lot of wave clear going that route. That's one of the reasons you buy Hextech Revolver is to try to clear that up. But against a Zoe where she's going to be constantly just throwing these paddle stars in your face, having that guaranteed wave clear, just a safe option. I
will say, worst skin of TF, the most ugly looking one. Has a smaller hitbox, only a slight touch, I will say. And it's going to be junglers starting towards the bottom side of the map here, red versus blue. And looks like pathing towards the top side is going to be the priority.
You've already mentioned how we don't expect a lot of action in this bottom lane. It's Braum against Nautilus. Nautilus is going to throw out his Q. Braum's going to block everything. Both bot lanes are going to walk away. If Betty and Ming do go too aggressive, OMG can come out ahead in that 2v2 from the passive coming out from the Braum, but all the action should be towards the top side. Especially
with Gravitum, right? That combination with concussive blows is pretty hard to get away from. We're having a quick look at the rune set here of Xiaohu. And of course, seen it before, Nimbus Cloak seems pretty bonkers at the moment.
Yeah, and the surprising to me is he did go with the stopwatch, because we've seen a lot of Twisted Fates and solo queue move away from that from ever since it got nerfed to coming up later. A lot of people do prefer to get the free boots now. Just getting more efficiency with your gold.
By the time you get it and try to dive, it's maybe a little bit too late. It's not late to gank here. Perfect pillar. Great gold cover. Xiaohu now has to force the flash. Responded by Icon first. Shalombao's here, but he's at half health. Forced out a lane, and Hacker strikes first.
Ooh, Hacker, really aggressive. Xiaohu just going to wait in the wings.
Flag and drag with gold card now. There's no flash available. Shalobao can't land the knockup as Icon has stolen away the flash from Xiaohu. The pillar locks him into a corner as the trouble bubble lands as well. OMG, that was so nicely done. Shalobao will escape, but first blood onto the Trundle.
Great play coming out from OMG. We even see Alias hovering over just in case he was needed. But good game coming out from Hacker, and then RNG trying to be the cheeky ones to find the fight going on in, but OMG just having the safety and security to win out.
And you've got yourself the Scuttle Crab that was on the side of Xiaolongbao. So for Hacker, this is going to be a pretty big start with top site ready to be set up as well.
Yeah, this is massive. We see now Cold hovering over, just giving Hacker more security. Hacker can just walk straight through mid lane and go secure that topside scuttle if he wants. It does look like the wave is bouncing back to Alias, but it doesn't matter. Icon will constantly have the push in this mid lane.
Now, I was going to ask you, because of that gank, because of that first blood onto the Twisted Fate, it does feel like part of that condition with Xiaohu roaming around earlier in the game is kind of negated a bit, but Shallenbao coming back mid is going to find the lock-up onto Icon. He doesn't have another flash. The wild card comes through, and Shallenbao takes the kill. So great response through onto Icon.
This was exactly what they needed, going back to the point you were just making, because Twisted Fate is a champion that when you fall behind is very useless. You don't have the same burst, you don't have the same DPS that other champions do. You're very squishy.
Now we want to talk about the fight down here, but only when Shallenbao comes in. A flash forward here, locked on down, responded. SMLZ gets knocked up, and even against the turret, he can't get out. A great Gravitum, but RNG get the bottom lane as well.
And that was something we saw kind of glimpses of last split, where RNG sometimes would have the synergy where they're always on point, flashing forward aggressively together, everyone on the same page, they pick up the kill. We were setting up what we need to see out of this bot lane, and it's good that RNG are giving us a taste of that.
No sloppy play from Ming. I mean, you talk about that coordination, that was key comms there from Ming to flash forward first. With a great start from RNG. Even though Ming picks up the kill, the bottom lane pushed on out as New is getting tested by Alias here. That's not the trade you want. Alias won that out pretty easily.
We do expect Renekton to win this early matchup, and let's mention once again that New has played in the LPL before. Who didn't hear, he did used to be on Vici in 2018 under the name Meow.
I feel like Meow's a better name than New, but maybe a new start for New.
I like the name Meow as well, but obviously OMG was not too successful. Not OMG, VG was not too successful that split, so
no.
I can understand a new start.
I look towards RNG now, and I'm looking towards Shallenbao after that big early start. Hacker and Cold roaming towards the bottom side, but speaking about the Jarvan because he's level 4, Hacker level 5 here. Hacker actually has a bit of a CS lead in the jungle and picked up that first kill, so still after everything's said and done, Hacker holding the gold quite even for the side of OMG.
It makes sense, right? Hacker was able to steal away those Raptors from Shallenbao early on, and Shallenbao has been more active on the map, ganking mid right after, going straight bot after that, and that's what you really need to do as a Jarvan, since you do fall off quite hard later in the game.
It's the bottom side here. Hacker and Shallenbao going to be meeting again. Pillar behind, but should have the flag and drag. Over the wall he goes, but that means priority for Dragons just given over to OMG.
True, and they will constantly have this bot side pressure since...
Okay, here comes Destiny, and it's Xiaohu in the form of that. The wall goes up, but Xiaohu is pretty damn squishy. A two-man knock-up on the backside, though, but OMG have the support. They have the Gravitum. A Cyclone comes on through, hits the backline, but New doesn't have any extra support, but does have the damage himself. A double kill immediately here for the Wukong, followed up by another one over to Ming. And I thought RNG were getting slammed there until New came in.
Not afraid to pull the trigger, and the thing I loved about it was not only Xiaohu's ultimate, but we saw New channel his TP first, so we know it was a coordinated play coming out from RNG. Doesn't matter if no one was able to follow him up. His ultimate was beautiful and gave space for the rest of RNG to peel Alias away.
Picked up a double kill, walked away. What a cool guy as we look at this again. Xiaohu into the face of danger.
Xiaohu coming with the ultimate. Like I said, New channeling his TP first, so very coordinated play coming out from RNG. Shallenbao going very deep, so he does end up dying to Alias, but great ultimate coming out from New, picking up 2 kills with the double ult.
Just found another one here, but it is Ming who secures the final kill of the fight. And you have to say for RNG, Lyric, you stated it well, this team has a great wombo. That was shown there a bit earlier than expected, but still shown there perfectly.
And that's what you want, right? If you're RNG, you want these straight up 5v5s, especially once Misfortune and Nautilus get their ultimates. You have that bullet time available to you. It's just going to be so much work done. And at this point in the game, even if Xiaohu ends up having to give away some waves, I feel like it's worth it just to find advantages around the map.
Finally set up someone like Betty with the bullet time that will have the Essence Reaver soon enough as well. Also note that we've got a Wukong in the top lane who is going for Trinity Force first instead of something like the Black Cleaver, as you can see with the double daggers. So in a lane that he was getting shoved out of, that he was losing in CS, has now caught back up. Now has the individual gold lead over Alias as well.
To be fair, though, as Wukong against Renekton, if you're going even, you're winning that matchup feels quite good. Looking at items, Xiaohu was able to pick up his Merc Treads, which is a good start, and you're going to work your way towards that Rod of Ages. Twisted Fate really is about that 2-item power spike once you pick up something like the Lich Bane. And then with the Zanyas especially too, right, being able to engage safely into these team fights.
But where do we go from here? We've got a trade of objectives, and I'm looking towards a fight in the bottom lane. So I'll pause on the question. SMLZ blocked nicely here by Colt, but jumped on the back with the Cataclysm, and Xiaohu roaming down. All he needed to do was flash and lock him. And that's another double kill, this time to the mid-tier.
So, great job by RNG picking up these kills. OMG probably responding by dropping that Rift Herald mid is what you would expect. Get some plate gold for Icon. And if you can drop this mid turret, that's actually huge. Xiaohu going to be left answering waves near that inner turret, but OMG should start looking to play around their top half of the map, get Alias back into the game, play heavily around Icon. SMLZ and Cold are going to scale up into the game no matter what.
Yep.
The scary thing for them, though, is RNG made that play without Xiaohu's ultimate. Xiaohu just got his ultimate back up, and they could look to play around side lanes once again.
Very, very true. Even into flash, he's going to be next to the enemy. And here he is in the inner turret, just catching the wave. I was going to ask you before that erupted as to how this game goes from here. Maybe it is not time. Destiny in the top lane. Cyclone again. The gold card locks him down. Is the damage going to be enough? There's not enough mana here for New. And Alias has some of his own. Trading on back, but won't find it. Flashes a little bit too late.
Oh, poor Alias. Just kind of unfortunate with that one. But it's like we said. RNG were able to make that play bot. Not quite sure how the wave ended up in that state, but without Xiaohu using his ultimate. So Xiaohu having his ultimate up, able to find this play. Doesn't even matter if he's losing CS in mid lane right now. He's creating so much pressure around the map.
They did answer the question I've spent 3 minutes trying to make as to where it goes, because Xiaohu roaming seems to be the foundation here. The speed of RNG getting a bit faster here as well, while OMG to sit back and wait for the likes of Icon, SMLZ. It doesn't feel like that option is as clear-cut as we saw at the start.
Last year on broadcast, I continuously said that Xiaohu is the best mid laner at using his pressures. Maybe not the best in the sense of he always makes the right choice, but in the sense of that Xiaohu is the only mid laner that no matter what is going to look to make a play on the side. That obviously was very good and bad in Spring, to where he would make the wrong play quite a lot of the time, but it's just quite beautiful to see when Xiaohu does start popping off like this.
And we have to remember the dynamic that Xiaohu now plays into, where it's not going to be the support Xiaohu that was liked with Uzi as flash for flash. You're not getting a chance to talk here in this one. As Ming going to burn his, but well worth it for SMLZ to get shoved back in lane. The dynamic's different. The mid laner has the potential to carry, not sit on a Lulu or a Karma and bolster up the bottom laner of RNG. That doesn't work like that with Betty.
You got to remember, too, now he's feeling the pressure because you have a very formidable substitute in your position right under you. Krine could slot into this roster easily, and I'm sure RNG would do just as well. So both Xiaohu and Krine have to step up their game to get that starting spot.
Evening of the franchise players as Icon, franchise here for OMG. Alongside Cold, almost gets spotted out, but RNG don't pull the trigger. They move back to the mid lane to clear out the wave. And you can see RNG just looking to push ever so slightly. With the Rod of Ages here on the TF, with the big gold lead built up earlier on. They don't want that to stop right now, especially with turret plating still available. The next play pushes that gold even further ahead.
And Xiaohu will have his ultimate up once again very soon. Dragon coming up in a minute and a half, so makes you wonder if he will use that towards the top side and keep trying to snowball New, who, again, he went the Triforce build, right? So he's trying to snowball. He wants to be a big damage threat in this game. Or do you just save it and use it around the time of the objective and secure that second dragon?
Next one's going to be up in a minute 10. Note that Rift Herald is not up for a while as well.
He still has TP, actually, so he can just make a play towards top side, then TP right down the dragon.
Towards those TPs, about 10 or 20 seconds to come up. The Wukong skin, when it presses W, scares me. It's like if you step on the tail of a puppy. It's really, really distressing.
And this is not what you want to see in the top side, where Wukong can just completely ignore the Renekton, hit the turret, and have nothing to worry about. Of course, Alias seems to know that Xiaolong Bao is around.
Good shadowing there from Xiaolong Bao. I will say, the consistency of Xiaolong Bao seems to play a big part on the success of RNG as well. And in this first game, hasn't been many step-ups. Xiaolong Bao towards the end of the split, really questionable decision-making. I think especially towards the early game on the likes of his Lee Sin, or if we saw the Jarvan. So that's what we'll be looking towards for RNG for this split.
Xiaolongbao and Xiaohu. That's what we said was like the core of this team. And we look at now, both of them having participated in 7 out of 8 kills, they've really been the cornerstone for this game so far. And we really want to see RNG develop more from the Xiaolongbao show. But if that is what it's going to be, it needs to be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Consistency for RNG cannot be understated. As they're going to be starting up on this second dragon, which OMG is going to be sitting away from. This is going to mean an Ocean or Cloud Rift yet again. And we get the Ocean Rift finally here, which for someone like OMG, that's not a bad roll.
Both teams going to be happy with this, but like you just pointed out, OMG especially happy. They're fine still just sitting back, scaling up, letting RNG get a bit more ahead. You have the Aphelios, you have a triple front line, and RNG doesn't have the highest amount of damage in the later stages of the game.
Just looking at gold here while we have a break in the momentum. 800, and pretty much shared between Icon and Hacker. Not pretty much, that's all it is. Breaking that mid lane turret with the Rift Herald earlier. Another one coming up, by the way, very, very shortly, in under a minute. Actually, under 20 seconds now. And topside priority at the moment is going the way of Alias, but Xiaolongbao up here. Xiaohu receiving the wave mid, while you can see vision control focused by OMG towards the bottom side of the map.
You're at a point now where you pretty much have to abandon Alias. The fact that New has his Triforce and Alias hasn't even completed his Black Cleaver means topside's pretty much lost. You have to all in on playing with this Zoe. You have Pillar plus Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and then winning out in skirmishes with your bottom side. But look at items. Betty already has Essence Reaver, and SMLZ doesn't look very close to that Infinity Edge.
No, he's been bullied out. He's almost got his flash up. That was burnt by Ming's flash engage a little bit before there as well. But in the meantime, focus your attention on the Rift Herald, picked up by Xiaolongbao. And Hacker and Icon just backing away and pretty much continuing to play that slow-paced game. Curious to see RNG's next move, because with that Rift Herald, the tempo stepping up should be a lot easier.
For RNG, I think you just stick to topside, keep getting New ahead. We've already seen how much a menace Wukong is as a champion. It's just so insane. So just keep getting gold onto him. Let him become a monster in these team fights. Betty and Ming are doing a fine job holding down bot side. And you also have Xiaohu's ult to answer any plays OMG wants to make.
But you can see with 2 people down there, OMG want to make the play now that Rift Herald's in hand and they thought Xiaolongbao was here. But he just gets the turret. That's New, in fact, who gets the turret on the top side. Betty and Ming hold on after clearing the wave. Xiaolongbao and Xiaohu are nearby, so not giving OMG an inch.
No, and Xiaohu did a great job earlier, just kind of hovering towards bot side, letting OMG know, hey, if you want to make a play bot side, I'm going to arrive. Does look like he's going for that Zhonya's next rather than going straight for a Lich Bane, so he wants to play more of this initiation role like we saw him do in the bottom side play.
Gotta say, though, I'm a fan that this slowed down a little bit. I know we already had 10 kills in the start of the game, and I know this has not been an LCK day, right? We have had a lot of blood. We've had V5 and DMO kind of edge it out before. RNG were, what were we discussing last, but they weren't a slow team, were they? We didn't edge them down as a slow team.
It was very strange because they were a team that would play these very aggressive and fast early games, at least try to. But then once it got to mid game, they would slow it down. They typically didn't look like they knew what to do. So they would have very action-packed early games, but very long game times.
It wasn't like we were complimenting their mid game, right? And especially not towards the end of the split. For OMG, a team that through the bottom lane we saw, okay, SMLZ and Cold have a great dynamic. Icon was finding his own as well. I think Icon had one of the best splits I've seen in a long time in 2020 spring, and it was kind of a shame that we didn't get to see them in playoffs. But again, towards the end, they just fell short.
Yeah, they dropped the ball themselves, right? They had that final series to decide who gets in, them versus WE. They did win one game, but ended up going down overall.
And now to start off the split here, getting tested by RNG. Xiaohu's going to find the turret in the side lane. Note that the gold is close to 5,000, so while the pace itself on screen is slowed down, RNG is still taking more than OMG at this stage in the game.
Let's also point out that Alias is obviously not the expected starter over Curse on this roster, so we don't know how this changes up the dynamic at all if Curse was in the game right now.
Because Alias still has a lot to prove. I think Curse has shown us that he can be an explosive top laner with a lot of raw talent, a lot of raw skill. Alias was the consistent member of V5 last split, and saying that is a lot.
He was the only member that wasn't changing around positions as well. I guess Shao Han wasn't changing positions too.
I mean, he was the only person that's like top lane is by lane, everyone else could bugger off.
He was also pretty much all about Renekton and Aatrox, so he had a very small effective champion pool as well.
Especially the Aatrox is what I remember him for. Alright. See, it's solo kill. Are we? Actually, we might. Hang on. Cyclone's going to come on up. Now, Alia's getting pummeled a little bit here. Double Cyclone means no more ultimate for you as the Troll Bubble. Not going to land down there as well. Glad I was falling into a bit of a lull state there as we're going to go through mid. Are you ready? We're about to speed up yet again.
OMG committing to the top side, trying to find that kill onto New, ends up giving up mid lane turret and dragon, so obviously I don't need to say that RNG went out, but it would have been kind of dicey in my opinion if OMG didn't all commit to top side, because then that means New blew his ultimate for no reason. OMG could have looked to try to force some kind of 5v5 without that Wukong ultimate, maybe come out ahead, but overcommitting for one member.
At the very least, Alias might be able to find this top turret, but on the side note, Destiny available, and no, a bit short, flashes forward, gold card lands, and Shallenbout on the side. He has a Cataclysm, and SMLZ doesn't have a hope in hell. Even with Severum, it's bye-bye SMLZ, and hello RNG yet again. They've got a lot to play for, and they're walking through mid.
RNG's win condition for the rest of this game is very straightforward.
More of that.
They play the straight-up 1-3-1. You wait for Destiny to come up, you move Xiaohu over. New will also be able to constantly look to move and look for these flanks and 4v4s and 5v5. So just play out the full map as RNG, bring it together once these ultimates and cooldowns are up.
SMLZ's having a hard game one, isn't he? I mean, I think that's his 4th death here. Been bullied out throughout the lane. RNG keep fighting him.
For OMG, just turtle this next 4 minutes, stay close to your inner turrets, clear your jungle. Don't fight until you absolutely have to. Then you need to bank on that straight-up 5v5. You have the Aphelios, you have the Braum, you have the Trundle, and that's kind of where you have to lay your cards.
Okay. But we are still looking at the clock again, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you make it simple for me.
3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, that is the next dragon. That is Ocean Soul. Very early into the game as well, I might add. And while, you know, I did talk up OMG's love of it, you mentioned before, it's good for RNG as well. You got to think about TF hitting a wild card, TF autoing, walking away with the movement speed he has. So, a really big start here for RNG. Still a 5k gold lead. Control around the Baron that's now spawned as well. There's no vision here for the side of OMG.
Oh, but RNG just going to take it slow. They have no reason to force anything. We do still see, looked like Ming was waiting in a brush just in case OMG walked in.
And they are walking in.
New does have TP as well. So does Alias.
They're cold. Caving on in as they finally engage SMLZ yet again. Oh no. Double knock up. Betty finds a kill, and now they switch onto Icon and has to flash over the wall. Luckily, he's out for now, but Hacker's going to get zoned on in. Another gold card, rather red card to come through as well. The AoE damage is Xiaohu still fine here. The dredge line to pull him on back in, and Betty now set up as well as New. Makes himself known here on the RNG roster. Has played a hell of a game one. RNG take it all.
And this is just so much domination coming out from RNG. Once again, I didn't expect this level of a win coming out today, but RNG looking good overall. Xiaohu once again showing up. Shallenbout looking good as well. New, a big surprise, right? When we saw 705 and New added to the roster, I think most people, us included, expected 705 to be the starter, but apparently whatever's been happening in scripts is working well for RNG.
The player we haven't seen in the LPL for a very long time. You're right, it's a great start here. He now has 2 items, but SMLZ caught out yet again.
Yep, just it was kind of strange because OMG were walking into that brush as a 4-man, but at the last second, Hacker kind of wandered off to go get some vision down around Baron. So it gave RNG the room to look for that engage. And here we just see it keeps going. New has already TP'd in, if you see on the minimap, where Alias isn't here. Flashes forward, finds the knockup, allows for RNG to clean up.
Really clean play from New on the Wukong. 2 items again mentioned there that the Death Stance has been picked up. Notice that Xiaohu also has a Magi Soul Stiller, which he's been stacking for quite a while. So really good start here for RNG. And OMG wandering a little bit lost here. That condition of scaling up, of waiting for the game to go on. falling away here with the Ocean Soul coming up in 1 minute, being behind 8,000 gold at 23 minutes in the game.
Exactly, and Twisted Fate is a champion that from behind is horrible, but when you're in this kind of position where you can freely push the side lanes, you're about to get your Lich Bane, your ultimate's pretty much constantly up. You're just pulling the enemy team around the map and constantly finding these picks so easily.
It's only going to get worse when you get that Lich Bane, when you get the 25 stacks of Magi's, which is the way this game's heading. Xiaohu will be unstoppable. The side lane TF now. Remember at MSC we saw Faker on TF with a massive lead and what these red cards, these blue cards can do to the turrets. That Lich Bane is going to make that a hell of a lot worse. It's 350 gold's picked up. And Xiaohu now on the roam with Destiny available again.
And we were talking about off screen the other day about Twisted Fate's secondary rune. My preference is actually to go for Demolish and into Bone Plating for a lot of these like harder matchups.
I think that was what Faker did.
Faker took Demolish. I think Unflinching is good as well. We're talking about this as well since you are taking Unsealed Spellbook. So
Destiny going to come out again, and look at the engage from Shallow Bow. He finds a perfect angle. The Wombo's there. Bullet time on top. RNG, very nicely done. As OMG were further behind than we thought, but this is just going to seal the deal. Triple kill here for Betty. Make it a quadra. And the pentakill, come on over here. New is setting it up for his 80 carry. Dredge line in, and the pentakill for Betty to start off the split.
I do want to say Icon is kind of a bro with that portal jump. And like you said, RNG going to pick up the first win in pre-25-minute game.
Beautiful stuff. RNG start the split off right, demolishing OMG here in game number 1.
Really happy with this iteration of RNG. I like the draft, which was something we criticized Mata a lot for in spring season. Very coordinated play coming